Good morning, first graders. I'm so excited to be talking to you again. It might be morning for you, or it might be afternoon, depending on when you're watching this video. So, some of you were used to coming to see me every day to work on reading, and some of you would go and see Mrs. T, and some of you saw Miss Emily or Miss Rebecca. But for the next 7 weeks, you're going to have videos in your Google Classroom from me, and we're going to review some of the things that we were working on when we were in school. And your job is going to be to use those things we work on when you're reading to moms and dads at home, or brothers and sisters, or your pets, or your stuffed animals, or whoever it is that you're practicing your reading with. And then when we get back to school, you're going to be able to really impress me and Mrs. T with all the wonderful reading that you can do. So we're going to start by going through our letter names and sounds. So if we used to start our classes going through letter sounds, but at the beginning of the year we did the name and the sound. Since we've been out of school for a while, I thought we would start with that. So this is a little different for me. I'm used to looking out at all of your gorgeous faces, but now I'm staring at a computer screen looking back at myself. So I have to try to remember to give you time to answer before I give my answer. So I'm going to put up the card. This is going to go slower than what we're used to. So I'll put up the card, and at home, you go ahead and say the letter name and the letter sound. And if you want to stand up and do the zoophonics movement with it, then that's great too. So say your letter name, letter sound, and then on this side, I'll give the letter name and letter sound so that we make sure that we're saying the right letter names and letter sounds. So let's start with this one. F, B, B. And remember, we really want to clip that sound, so we don't want to say B. We want to say B. M, M. L, O. Q, Qu. C, K. Z, Z. W, W. K, K. J, J. D, D. E, E. Y, Y. I, I. G, G. H, V, V. X, X. N, N. A, A. S, S. T, T. U, R, R. O, P, P. And then we're back to F. Good job, first graders. Okay. Now, remember we used to work out of our packet, and before we left, the last sound that we were working on was CK together. And we had talked about how when we see CK in a word, we're only going to make the K sound one time. So this is not going to say K, it's just going to say K. And the other thing to remember about CK is that it's never going to start a word. So if you hear K at the beginning of a word, like in the word cake, that K in the beginning is never going to be CK. It could be a C, which it is in the word cake. It could be a K, because that makes the K sound. Sometimes it's CH together making the K sound, which usually says ch, but in a word like Christmas it says K. But CK will not start a word. You'll find it in the middle of a word or at the end of a word, like the word truck. That ends with a CK, okay? So we're going to go through these. I'm going to put my finger under the sound. You say the sound at home, and then I'll say the sound here for our practice. Let me make sure you can see all the letters. Okay, here we go. K, ing, ch, k, b, j, a, m, b, e, mm, mm, ch, k, 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 ing, k, mm, k, er. Good job. Okay, this is the other page we're going to work on today. Next week when you see the video, we're going to work on writing words, and I know that's what you guys are always the most excited about. So next week when you start your video, have a piece of paper and something to write with, or a whiteboard and marker, whatever you have at home, and we're going to practice pounding out the word parts and then counting the sounds and writing them like we did in class. But today we're just going to work on blending words a little bit when we sound them out. And down here, we're going to work on those words that we know so well we can just say them because we've seen them so many times. Okay, when we get ready to blend these words, I want you to remember what we did earlier in the year when we used our race cars, okay? And we talked about how when we are sounding out words, we always want to have sound coming out of our mouth. We're blending those sounds together. So the sound is what makes the race car go. And if there's no sound coming out of your mouth, the race car is going to stop, which it doesn't want to do. What do race cars want to do? They want to go. So we want to keep having the sound come out and move this car along, and then we'll be able to say the word quickly and really zoom the car. If you already know a word, once you've seen a word so many times, you've sounded it out, you've practiced it, you've seen it in stories a lot, then you just look at that word and you know it. So this first word, if you have someone in your family who has this name, you may just look right at that word and know what it is. If we know what the word is, then we don't sound it out, right? We just say the word, because eventually that's what we want to build up to, is that a lot of these words, we just know them, and that helps move us along through our reading. All right, so with this first word, remember we were working on always looking at those first two sounds and starting by blending those two sounds together. So we have a J and an A, and we're going to say ja, so that's going to keep our car moving. Ja, put on the last sound, k. So we've got jack. Say it fast, jack. Okay, keep those sounds moving. What we don't want is this, j, a, k. We don't want to stop in between the sounds because that's not going to make the race car happy. The other thing to remember, earlier in our book, they would put a dot underneath every sound. So the letter CK would have had one dot underneath them because together they only make one sound. But now they know that you've come so far in your reading, you don't need those dots. You just need to remember, when you see CK, one sound, k. So this is jack, jack. Okay, let's look at the next one. Let's sound it out together. Ready? I'm going to take those first two sounds. Oh, I have to get my finger out of the way. There we go. Well, there, that's better. Okay. Job. What's the word? Job. Good. Down here, we have what reading teachers call a consonant blend in the beginning, because we have two consonant letters together, G and R. Let's remember that a consonant is any letter that's not a vowel, our hardest written letters, because those vowels can say their letter name or their letter sound, so they're very hard workers. Let's review. What are our vowels? Ready? Say them with me. A, E, I, O, U. Sometimes Y. Okay. G and R are not vowels, so they're consonants. So we've got that consonant blend, and we want to blend those two sounds together to start our word. So GR would say grr. We're going to keep going. Grass. And the word is grass. Good. Another consonant blend here. See if you can blend that on your own at home. What would CR blend sound like? Okay, we're going to do it together, and then we're going to add the other sounds. Here we go. Crab. Word? Crab. Some of you might have looked at that word and already known it because we've done quite a few stories that have the word crab in them so far. Okay, let's look at this. How are we going to blend that F and the R? Here we go. Ready? Frog. Word? Frog. Good. Up here, I'm going to give you a chance to sound it out on your own. And then what's the word? Sick. Down here, sound it out to yourself. And then what's the word? Back. Look at this one. We've got a consonant blend. Again, two consonant letters in the beginning. Let's blend those together, that G and the L. Ready? Glad. Word? Glad. Down here, another consonant blend. S and L. Blend those. slip. What word? Slip. Now this word down here, we can sound out if we need to. A lot of us might already know this word because it's been up on our color word wall in kindergarten and in first grade, and we've seen it in a lot of print. So we started out learning it by sounding it out, but now we just look at that word and we know that's the word black. Okay, let's go through and read these words quickly now that we've sounded them out. Ready? Here we go. Jack, job, grass, crab, frog, sick, back, glad, slip, black. Good job. All right, these words down here are the words that we see in print so often that they become words that we just know as soon as we look at them. So we start learning them by sounding them out, and then we see them so frequently that we're able to just say them. Some of these words have letters that do some tricky things, and so they don't sound out exactly right. And then we just have to know, oh, when we see that word, this is what we say. Like this one down here. When we learned this word, we sounded it out, and it sounded like was. So we said, well, this looks like was. But we know that when we see that word that looks like was is not a word. This is the word was. When we saw this word for the first time in our book here, we talked about what sound O-O can make. And a lot of people said ooh, and we tried it, and it said Luke. But that word did not make sense in our sentence, so we knew this wasn't the word Luke. So sometimes O-O can also say like in the word book. So book is spelled B-O-O-K, and that O-O makes the sound This is like that word, like book. This is the word look. And remember when we talked about this word in class, we drew the eyeballs inside the O's for look. Okay? So let's look at these words. These are also the words that go home in your homework folder that we practice as flashcards. So hopefully we can go through these quickly. We just look at these words and know what they are because we practiced them so many times. So here we go. Ready? Look, his, she, a, have, are, they, with, he, was. Sparish has to make sure that this is still recording because I taped one a little while ago and it didn't record, and then I had to redo the whole thing again. So, okay, good job with that, guys. So we can keep reviewing this lesson for this week if we want to. For sure, I'll see you next week.